Hey y'all, welcome back to Bored as Heck Crafts. Today we're going to be doing needle felting. And some of you have heard what that is, some of you have not. But in case you don't know what it is, it's a process of tangling wool up together to form something, like sculpting with wool. And what you see here is that's a specialized needle with little barbs on the end of it so that you can, unfortunately, if you see that mark on my finger, miss what you're jabbing and put DNA into your project. But you start out with a really thick pad, like that is usually designed for cushions. The tool I just showed you was a multi-prong needle holder, and this is what's called raw wool. Some has been dyed, some has not. So you need your specialized needles, core wool, which was the white. In this here, I'm going to show you the specialized needles in this packet. Now, I get most of my supplies from one store out of Texas, and I'll show you the name of that store in just a minute. So right now, I'm just going to take these needles out and show you that there are some that are stars and serrated flat surfaces, and each has its own purpose. The ones with the pink, I think, are the stars, and they're for sculpting, and those are the workhorses. Those are just the flat serrated edge, and I usually buy multiple of those, and both those packages that I'm holding here are the workhorse needles. Again, the ones with the pink handles are for sculpting. But we're going to start with the workhorse. So it's always nice to try to stay organized because you can lose these things or the animals get into them, and that's not a good thing at all. You don't want your pets chewing these very sharp edges, and you don't want to step on them if they get into the carpet or whatever. So, yeah, I decided to do a voiceover with this video instead of having you listen to all the background noise here. So what you do is you start with your needle. And I'm showing you what happens if you miss with the needle. And yeah, you can injure yourself. So it's good to be working in an environment where you can concentrate. And this is where I get most of my supplies from. It's called Living Felt. Living Felt, they're out of Texas, and they do have a YouTube channel. On Wednesdays, they've got live broadcasts that they call Woolly Wednesday, and they show you different techniques with the felting, the needle felting. They have interesting guests. So here I'm tearing off a little bit of this raw wool, and I'm breaking it down pretty thin and spreading it out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to begin felting. And all felting, wool felting is encouraging the interlocking of the fibers in the wool to end up with a densely felted piece of wool. So as you see, I'm starting to stab it. This is one of the most therapeutic crafts I have ever done. If you've had one of those days where you're just fed up with people or fed up with situations, start doing this. There's something grossly satisfying about stabbing the wool. Stab, 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 stab. And if you notice, this once fluffy mass of wool is starting to turn into something with a shape. So today I've decided to carry pin cushions in my craft stall. Our markets are done for the year. It's early December, cold outside, too cold to really sit in those booths in the weather. So now I'm using the massive stabbing tool, and it's got several different needles in it with different ends. Again, you can get this at Living Felt. But you notice as I stab it how the wool is felting into a solid mass. And this is what you want. A solid mass of wool. Now you want to stab it until it's firm, not rock hard, but firm, because we're going to keep building on this little mass of wool. And it's really easy to build. So I'm getting it as tight as I think is necessary to hold the shape. And we're going for an oblong, I guess, egg shape. But I want it kind of flat because, again, this is going to be a pin cushion for those of you who sew or do macrame, whatever, and use pins, straight pins in your crafts. So I'm doing all sides or ends. Can you see that compacting? I think it's fascinating. And when you're doing it that way, where you're holding it up straight up like that, that's when you're going to jab your fingers. But see, it kind of looks like a barrel bead at that point. But we're going to that size that I'm making with my hands. So we're going to grab some more wool and roll that piece like it's a Tootsie Roll. Stab it a little bit, that'll hold it in place. Keep your fingers out of your stabbing. Trust me, you learn how to do that. You learn just where to place your hand and where not to. And you just simply roll it. Do a little bit of stabbing. And roll it some more. So I'm going to speed this up here a little bit because you don't want to sit here and watch 2 hours worth of video. So I am going to be stabbing this into the shape that we want it in. Here I have a commercially made pin cushion just to show you how big the pin cushion should be. And that's how far we need to go with the size of this. So we're going to wrap from both sides, alternating the wool as we put it down. Now we're going to start building this out. You see it's a lot wider now on that little pillow. And I didn't lock down all the fiber, but you can definitely see there's a head and tail to this. So now we're going to pull 2 pieces of just the raw wool, and we're going to make what will become the wings on this ladybug. You see how I've kind of folded it, and I'm going to try to get another piece of wool identical in size. First I flatten it out and then I fold it into shape. Sorry, it's off camera a little bit. And then I begin stabbing at both sides down the middle just to lock it in. Then you go around the edges. You see how that pulls in and takes a shape almost immediately? I just think that's fascinating. Keeping my fingers carefully out of range. because the pad, the sponge pad that you're stabbing into will hold that fleece down for you. So I'm trying to get it basically the size to go over half of this form that's on the right. And I'm not too picky with the shape yet. Just need to get a rough shape of it, and then we'll make the other side to be, comparable in shape and size. So, I'm going to show where it's going to go. Going to go right there. So now I'm going to stab the other one till it matches. Not too difficult so far, right? Again, keep your fingers out of the way, or you'll use every word Mama told you never to say. No, it does hurt. So I guess this is not a really good craft for little kids, or if you have little children near you. They get into the crying. However, what you produce makes ideal gifts. So they're basically the right shape. I'm not happy with it not being identical, so I'm going to abuse it a little bit more with the needle here. That's better. That's better. I'm getting happier with the shape here. That's about right. So now we're going to put it on the body. So now we're looking at how do we position the wing. That looks pretty good. So we stab it down and it interlocks with the heavier body underneath where you've put the wings. Kind of hard to see at this point, I know. But look how you sculpt it into the shape of the body that you've already made. And I'm just going around the edges just to tack it down. Can you see it yet? You see what it is? Now the other side. Just deciding which is front, which is back. Get it into position where you want it. And stab that puppy. Stab, 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 stab. Stabbing down off the butt. Gonna stab around the wing. And I'm going to continue this until it is tacked down all the way. All right, so this is what the head looks. Now we have to go down the center behind the head to define the wings. And that's as simple as just taking a little bit of black, laying in that groove. I've also done the belly and between the two wings. Can you see that? Cool beans, huh? And we've, in going around the edges like this, you see how it's firming up and becoming more solid? So now I'm going to poke it a little bit more to give it a little bit denser texture for the wings. I'm sure you can visualize what we have here now. Kind of looks like a ladybug, doesn't it? I think so. So we finished with the black. Now we're going to lay on the red. I love this color red. Kind of looks like a cherry red to me. And I love cherries. So again, I'm drawing it out to get the fibers all going one direction. And you simply lay it over where the form of the ring was, and you begin the same process. Stabby, stabby, stabby. Stabby, stabby. And you're going to coat the white of those wings with the red. So here we go. Look, it looks like a bug, doesn't it? So I'm tacking down all the red that I can and rotating it and looking at it from all angles. Make sure the edges are firm. And when you're making a pin cushion, you don't want to stab it to the point where it's so firm you can't get pins into it. Most of the needle felting that you will do for sculpting, you want it so firm that those fibers are locked. But because you're going to be sticking straight pins into this, you see how one side's firmer than the other, the left side's firmer than the right? So now I'm going to stab the right. Anyway, you want to still be able to stick pins down into it. And right here I'm looking for little patches of the white core showing through, and you just put a little bit more of top coat of your color and stab it into place. It's really not difficult. It's not rocket science. Watch those fingers, Lisa. Yep. Okie dokie. Here's your shape. Checking size to the commercial pin pad. It's pretty good. So now, where are the polka dots? Those are easy. Just tear out a little tuft of black, roll it between your fingers. What I usually do at this point is I'll call a picture of the internet up on my computer, which is right in front of where I'm working. And I called up a picture of ladybugs just to see how many dots they had and how the dots were placed on the wings. And they've got black dots and they've got white dots. So what I tend to do is I make my dots in pairs. Again, they have them pretty comparable in size. And you stab it into shape. I wasn't happy that one's a little bit smaller than the other one. So all you do is add a little bit more fiber and stab that puppy. See, they're about the same size. Pick it up, place it on your sculpture where you want it, and stab in the center and then stab around the edges of the shape. Fairly easy, huh? See that dot? Dot 1. Here we go with dot 2. So here we are, just about done with this, and I've gone back over and stabbed it, alternating with all three of my tools there, the pink-ended needles and the multi-tool. But I'm showing you, see, you can still pull the fiber up, and if you could still pull fiber up, you need to do a little bit more sculpting. If you were doing like a toy or something for a shelf or a display, you would want it extra firm so that you couldn't lift any fiber when you ran your fingers over the top and pinched it. but for the pincushion, you want a little looser. Now here I wasn't real happy with the lack of definition for the head, so I added a little bit more black, and I just stabbing it into place. And that's the beauty of sculpting with wool, is you really can control your shapes, and you'll learn real quick how to do that, and you'll learn to look at where things are placed and where you need to add your padding. And if you want to just move it or tear it off, you just grab it and pull it off. And like those dots, if you wanted to reposition them, just peel them up and move them around and retack them down. So now we want to add, see, I'm using the multi-tool. That really firms it down faster. Stabby, stabby, stabby. Again, getting all my frustrations out. Very therapeutic. Very, very, very therapeutic. So now we're going to add the little white spots. I don't know if you've ever noticed the white spots on a ladybug, but if you call a picture up in Google and type ladybug and then images, you'll see the variation of white spots on the ladybug. I'd like to keep my sculptures as realistic as I can. I suppose I should probably do some whimsical ones, but I'm kind of like things that look as accurate as they are in nature. I guess you would call me a purist. I don't know. But look what the difference just putting those two little white dots on that ladybug making, and how real it looks. Isn't that cool? Needs a couple more white things on it though. So here we are. We've got the white spots on here. It kind of makes them have a little bit of a face, doesn't it? And well, folks, that is how to needle felt a pin pad or a pin cushion, for those of you who sew, in the form of a ladybug. Let's test it out. Did I get it too firm to hold a pin or two? Here's your litmus test. And the answer is yes, it's just fine. Look at those pins in there. Would you think this was fun to have by your sewing machine? Yeah, here you have it. A ladybug pincushion. Borderset Crafts. See you later. Bye.